In 1985, Oscar Wilde, poet, playwright, snappy dresser and witty gay, faced 3 trials that sought to publicly extricate from poetic art the homosexuality lying beneath its surface and cast judgment upon it. Although friends begged him to leave the country and continue his writing abroad, possibly in more tolerant France, he did not, certain that he would not actually be convicted. A big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I will tell you all about their great VPN service and amazing offer later in the video. On April 3rd, 1895, his lawyer, Sir Edward Clarke, realising that the weight of evidence against Wilde was large, to say the least, attempted to get out ahead of the argument and read the letters to his alleged paramour aloud in the courtroom. Before beginning, he admitted to all that the letter might appear extravagant to those in the habit of writing commercial correspondence, but said it must be remembered that Oscar Wilde is a poet and the letter should be read as the expression of true poetic feeling and with no relation whatsoever to the suggestions of homosexuality the other side would like to give to it. They aren't gay like homo, just gay like happy. Wilde, wearing a fashionable coat with a flower in his buttonhole, chatted with his attorney in a relaxed manner and believed the jury would see that the art rather than the sex. When has that ever happened? After over 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict, guilty on almost all counts. Wilde swayed slightly in the dock, his face turning grey. Some in the courtroom shouted, "Shame!" whilst others cheered the verdict. He went on to serve 2 years in prison for gross indecency, but it was not just Wilde on who the effects of the verdict were felt. Wilde's trials caused public attitudes towards homosexuals to become harsher and less tolerant, even of people who were just assumed to be gay. Where male friends had once walked arm in arm, kissed to say hello, or tenderly grasped each other, now they hesitated to express their emotions and feelings of closeness with friends. Where prior to this, there was a certain pity for those who engaged in same-sex passion. After the trials, homosexuality was seen as more of a threat and as predatory. Now art was associated with homoeroticism, and effeminate gestures raised an eyebrow. If you had a close artistic friendship with someone of the same sex, you'd likely go anxious, concerned about doing anything that might suggest impropriety. Last October, after over a decade of fan speculation that Taylor Swift is actually a closeted queer woman and has been all along, she finally addressed the theory in the liner notes to her album 1989, Taylor's Version, explaining that she had been hurt and tired of her relationship with men being constantly the focus of press and media buzz, and not her music or songwriting. Instead, being a consummate optimist, I assumed I could fix their speculation if I simply changed my behaviour. I swore off dating and decided to focus only on myself, my music, my growth, and my female friendships. If I only hung out with my female friends, people couldn't sensationalise or sexualise that, right? I would learn later on that people could, and people would. People very much did. The theory that Taylor Swift is actually queer and has been leaving breadcrumbs for us in her work is called Taylorism. And the theory that Taylor Swift has been pretending to be queer, leaving breadcrumbs in her work and then turning around and stabbing people in the front is called burner idols. I'm kidding, it's called queerbaiting. So, firstly, I'm actually not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I'm also not. No, I mean, she's nice. There are also a lot of genuine things we can criticise her on, her jet emissions being one, but I don't really think queerbaiting is one of them. In fact, I've made this whole video, however long it turns out to be, just to tell you that I think we need to stop accusing real human people of queerbaiting, because it degrades valid criticism of actual queerbaiting done by corporations and media structures, and it ruins meaningful conversations and harms the LGBTQ+ community, who we're supposed to be defending here, right? People can just be friends, and we don't need to sexualise that all the time, or make people feel uncomfortable about that. Didn't we do a lot of hard work to prove that lesbians and gay men can just be friends with our friends? And excuse me, but when did we become okay with speculating on people's sexuality to the point of attempting to force open their closet door? But that, of course, did not stop the writer Anna Marks for the New York Times opinion section from penning a deeply controversial essay last week that claims Taylor Swift is actually a bisexual woman who feels hemmed in by industry pressures that deter her from coming out. Yeah, I know. Something's making me feel a little bit more like Taylor right now. Now of course she's an international pop star currently on her Eras tour across the world, and I can change my virtual location to almost any country in the world, thanks to Surfshark. Surfshark's the sponsor of today's video, and I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about their amazing VPN app and browser extension. If you haven't, well, let me tell you more. Connecting to a VPN server has never been easier thanks to Surfshark. They allow you to quickly change your virtual location and grant you special access to sites, services, and content that you can't usually see. Your internet traffic enters an encrypted tunnel, which helps to shield your identity from websites, apps, and services that want to track you. Also, we're going on a family trip to Malaysia soon, and with help from Surfshark, we were able to find the best flight prices by switching our virtual location. It genuinely is amazing watching that price change just because you changed your location. And if you're thinking, Jessica, you're literally going to Malaysia, you won't be able to watch The Traitors over there? Has anyone else been absolutely loving the new series? Thanks to Surfshark, yes, you can watch your favourite UK shows while abroad. I can simply change my VPN location from Malaysia to the UK and I'll be good to go. Do you fancy an exclusive Surfshark deal? It's so easy. All you need to do is enter the promo code JESSICA to get up to 6 additional months for free. Surfshark is here to help this new year, especially when you're being more careful with money after the festive period. Simply head to surfshark.deals/Jessica or click the link in the description now, or after the rest of this video. The essay itself is laden with the same gala references that have been floating around the internet for the last 10 years. The colours Taylor wears in her Lover era are pastel blue and purple and pink, obviously a reference to the bisexual pride flag, and it's called her Lover era. And then she released the album's lead single on Lesbian Visibility Day, Me, which is all about self-love and acceptance, with a music video of her dancing at a pride parade and turning down a marriage proposal from a man in exchange for a pet cat. I mean, come on. In the behind the scenes of the Me video, where she says something to the effect of, then we have cats, cowboy boots, gay pride, all of the things that make me, me. What kind of ally says that? Gay pride makes them who they are? Not even the best ally in the world would say that, unless they themselves are gay. And then, in the You Need to Calm Down video, Taylor's hair is blue, purple, and pink. Again, the bisexual colours. She has a proud friendship bracelet in the bi colours. That lyric from the very first night, didn't read the note on the Polaroid picture, they don't know how much I miss you, would make so much more sense if the pronoun used was her. So then fans started singing it that way, and even Taylor has stopped. Oh no, the biggest tell was when Jack Antonoff said in an interview he liked working with women, particularly gay women, in direct response to a question about working with Taylor. Ooh, what about when Taylor wrote the lyrics to Don't Blame Me and the hand-drawn daisy right next to the line, but now I'm your daisy, which is very similar to the one Carly Kloss posted from their road trip together. When a guy asked where he should take his wife for their anniversary, and she straight up said Big Sur, which is where her and Carly famously went to. The day after Carly Kloss announced her engagement, she brought out Hayley Kiyoko on stage for her guest on tour and asked her to sing a song about a woman who's messing with a lesbian and a straight man. She's constantly depicting herself as trapped in glass closets, or well, in regular closets. Exactly, it's all evidence. Putting the article in the New York Times was apparently a step too far for Taylor's team, however, who were probably the ones talking to CNN Business for their piece headlined, Taylor Swift's associates dismayed by New York Times piece speculating on her sexuality, invasive, untrue, and inappropriate. This article wouldn't have been allowed to be written about Shawn Mendes or any male artist whose sexuality has been questioned by fans, an anonymous person close to the situation wrote. Taylor's PR team. There seems to be no boundary that some journalists won't cross when writing about Taylor, regardless of how invasive, untrue, and inappropriate it is. All under the protective veil of opinion piece, said the same mystery person. It also took Twitter, Reddit, and every other platform you can type words on by storm. But the entire drama just raises a whole host of difficult questions about the status of celebrity in a parasocial world and journalistic ethics. Is it wrong to speculate on the romantic lives of creators who make their relationships part of their art? Do they still have a right to a private life if they're willing to intimately share parts of themselves with you? Yes, your friend might tell you a secret that doesn't give you the rights of access to every other secret they hold in their brain. Think of public people, like Wheel of Life graphs. They can let you all the way in on one point because they've shared their rawest creations, but that doesn't mean you get the whole pie. But Taylor Swift is exceptionally good at the parasocial relationship. As I said, I'm not a huge fan. Before researching this video, I could only name 2 of her albums. I don't think I know that many of her songs. I mean, I am deaf, so that probably doesn't help. But I do think I could have named 6 of her boyfriends off the top of my head, and probably 7 of the women in her girl gang. Maybe 4 who used to be in it, and aren't anymore. I mean, okay, let's go. So she's currently dating Travis Kelce, who's an American football player, as in fake football, not that he's an American who plays football. She's previously dated Joe Alwyn, he's an actor, maybe. Matty Healy, he's from a band called 1975, maybe, but we don't talk about him for a variety of reasons unrelated to Taylor Swift. Calvin Harris, Harry Styles, has his own part of this video later on. Tom Hiddleston, and wait, I haven't even been counting. We're at 5, maybe. We're at 5, 6. And Jake Gyllenhaal. But also I feel like all these men are different ages, quite different ages. Friends. Her friends used to include Haim, who are potentially 2 or 3 sisters. I'm unclear. I'm gonna go with 2. And Lena Dunham, but I don't know if they hang out anymore. Definitely Sophie Turner, because she's getting a divorce. Do we still talk about Ellie Goulding? Cara Delevingne, Selena Gomez, Hailey Steinfeld, Gigi Hadid, and obviously Carly Kloss, more on her later, Blake Lively, and people think she accidentally said the name of Blake's 3rd child in her song, though I don't know how that would be an accident. Why? Why? Yeah, why do I have this information? Good question. Because her music depends on your metatextual knowledge of the very much alive author, and her music videos are fun. Her relatability factor sells. Your enjoyment of her friendships and relationships sells. Taylor has repeatedly said she is merely a straight ally of the LGBT community, but the possibility that she could be more also sells. And that commercial, messy, speaking to your little queer soul blueprint is partly why we have things like chaotic lesbian Fletcher, who openly obsesses over her ex's new girlfriend using her actual name on Becky's So Hot. Go Becky? You need to make content about your own life in order to sell. And thanks to Taylor telling us about her latest heartbreak, then becoming a billionaire, that's definitely going to stay that way. I know that's not the only thing she makes music about, don't come for me. You know what we haven't mentioned yet though? The ease with which we're currently talking about queerness and its increasing importance in pop culture. That New York Times article opens talking about how mentally and physically dangerous being LGBTQ+ in the world of country music was just 10 years ago when Taylor Swift first got her start. And does that play into things? So wait, anyway, what is a gala? So for years, there's been this ongoing conspiracy theory that Taylor Swift is either closeted or has already come out through her music. Galas, best name for a fandom ever, believe that Taylor Swift is secretly bisexual or lesbian, and that she intentionally conceals this from the public. Some galas are straight fans, sometimes these are queer fans sharing their interpretations of songs, and sometimes it's people who wonder what really happened with her and certain other female celebrities. They've accumulated a bank of evidence, including a wealth of it on Taylor's seemingly romantic relations with her longtime best friend Carly Kloss, ship name Kayla, obviously. Although someone is now watching from the bleachers rather than backstage. They've interrogated her lyrics, her continual support for the LGBTQ+ community, her physical closeness with her female friends, and of course the many times she has worn rainbows. She even made a pro-LGBTQ+ equality song, You Need to Calm Down. And in the video, she's seen as part of the group the homophobes are protesting about. Never mind that they normally hate allies too anyway. Personally, to me, the song is a pretty boppy, gay people are born this way and we should be nice to them style record that isn't exactly breaking boundaries or destroying people's lives, but apparently some people really don't like it, and not for homophobic reasons. I'm not a great marker of what makes a good song, but at least this one isn't actively offensive, so set in a rainbow-coloured trailer park, there's a same-sex wedding, there's a drag pageant, a very queer tea party, and a mini pride parade right next to redneck-coded protesters holding signs like homosexuality is a sin and Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Shout out to anyone who first learnt that one from But I'm a Cheerleader. The music video is full of cameos from famous American LGBTQ+ and adjacent people, and ends with a call to sign a petition for Senate support of the Equality Act on change.org to protect LGBTQ+ people from discrimination in their places of work, homes and schools, and other public accommodations, because America doesn't have a ratified Equality Act, which surprises me every time I remember that fact. The song and video followed a social media post from Taylor in the lead up to the 2018 midterm elections condemning the Republican Senator of Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, over her record on gay rights, which drew a rebuke from President Donald Trump. and was a big deal TM because the Taylor Swift had long been neutral until this point. Painfully neutral. Having previously not spoken up on political issues, particularly during the 2016 US presidential election campaign, she'd found that she'd accidentally become a darling of the right wing and was rightly criticised for it. Is true political neutrality possible? Ask a chatbot near you today. They might say yes, but oops, that's how we lose our humanity as we watch the world burn. As she told Vogue magazine in August 2019, she felt compelled to loudly champion LGBTQ+ causes because rights were being stripped from basically everyone who isn't a straight, white, cisgender male in the USA. What has changed in 4 years? Would you like to know what else Taylor said in that interview? I didn't realise until recently that I could advocate for a community that I'm not part of. And yes, okay, some might call that just, hiding in plain sight. Maybe she's creating a diversionary tactic. And others might say, well, when your boat has started tipping that far to the right, you really need to throw your weight onto the other side to save yourself from falling in. And then there's the other group of people who relate to not always being hugely vocal with their opinions. And we don't all live in environments where putting a pride flag on the wall and proclaiming your allyship is a safe thing to do, especially our younger friends still living in homophobic and transphobic environments. Your support is welcomed and appreciated always, but please know you are under no pressure to feel guilt for putting your personal safety first. So not all people feel comfortable being vocal with their opinions, particularly on political topics. Do I think the existence of human beings should be political? No, but sadly that's how it is. Congrats to those of us intersectionals though. So political we're essentially Archduke Franz Ferdinand taking a leisurely carriage ride. A person may also feel that neutrality suits them best if they're unsure fully on the two sides' positions, or they haven't read up enough yet, or they've just got social anxiety and they don't love being put on the spot over Christmas dinner table. God, no matter how many great stats they've got sitting in their back pocket, you've just made her too nervous now, Uncle Ted. God! But you knew that. That was your plan all along. Do I think that applies to Taylor Swift? No. In the same Vogue interview, she describes the conversation with her friend, singer Todrick Hall, which she said helped her realise that she had not been vocal enough in her support for the LGBTQ+ community. Maybe a year or two ago, Todrick and I were in the car and he asked me, what would you do if your son was gay? The fact that he had to ask me shocked me and made me realise that I had not made my position clear enough or loud enough. She says, yeah. No kidding, Taylor. Because if he was thinking that, I can't imagine what my fans in the LGBTQ+ community might be thinking. It was kind of devastating to realise that I hadn't been publicly clear about that. If they're wondering whether you'll throw your child out, you probably should have been a bit louder on that one. The thing is though, when she released the video for You Need to Calm Down, satirical news site The Onion immediately ran with the rather poignant headline, Taylor Swift inspires teen to come out as straight woman needing to be at the centre of gay rights narrative. Okay, wait, what if she's not a straight woman trying a little too hard to create a great gay anthem, but a closeted queer woman desperately trying to show us that she's one of us? Well, that does absolve her of a certain ham-fistedness in the delivery of the message. Yes, we let you be a little messy. For gaylers, there can be a heavy weight behind their investment in the possibility of Taylor's queerness. Her non-heterosexuality could potentially change the world, ushering in great LGBTQ+ acceptance, confirming that gay stories are being told on the biggest stages possible. It could make their day-to-day lives easier. As Gayler Tumblr user, those flashing green eyes wrote in their post, lyrical meaning and subtext, and you need to calm down. Snakes and stones never broke my bones. There's the easy wordplay here, but I'm more interested in the stones part of the lyric. I think it references not only the pain Taylor has endured due to online vitriol, but the deeper, more personal losses she's suffered as a result of her intensely public life, namely the closet. Verse 2. This verse takes obvious aim at homophobic bullies, but I think it also alludes to the pain of life in the closet, using an ongoing metaphor of light and darkness. Sunshine on the street at the parade, but you would rather be in the dark age. Shade never made anybody less gay. This line has three meanings. That throwing shade on someone won't change who they are. The second is an in-joke for LGBTQ+ people. Don't reinvent it, shade. But the third meaning here is shade as darkness. Being in the closet and hiding who you are doesn't make you less gay. And no one knows this better than Taylor. Okay. The poster writes that it doesn't matter to them whether other people agree with their subtextual reading. What matters to them is that one of the biggest pop stars in the world is calling out homophobic, misogynistic anger, speaking directly to those who traffic in it and saying she won't stand for it. And Gaylerism as a fandom has indeed been something of a pipeline and an entryway into gay culture for baby gays. So that's amazing, empowering, and a wonderful thing. It's also possible that she is bisexual. Sure, she branded herself as a goody two-shoes, man-loving Christian girly girl from the beginning, and has dated many men publicly, and I guess her music is pretty heteronormative, but I've got a gay brain, so most things sound gay to me, to be honest. You could definitely read gay text into anything, but sure, there have definitely been some men in her romantic life. Bisexuality exists, so I suppose it isn't outside the realm of the possibility that she's a femme bisexual woman, and it's bi-erasing to assume that bisexuality, or pansexuality, if that's hypothetically how she identifies, isn't compatible with dating men and having a feminine style. Certainly, queer people closet themselves and carefully construct their public image to cater to heteronormative expectations. And for Taylor in particular, can she risk alienating that country-loving conservative fan base, or her global audience with less queer-accepting views? It would make sense if she just didn't want to rock the boat or draw negative attention to herself by coming out. Countless queer celebrities have done this before. Wait, I'm sorry. What exactly is this attempting to wrench her out of the closet trying to achieve? In the past few weeks, gaylers have taken a bit of a beating and have attempted to deal one back to Taylor Swift. And as someone who has had way too many emotions that I occasionally attach to things I shouldn't, I can relate. Sometimes you just love the idea of something, and the person next to you also loves the idea of the same something, and then that something turns out to be not what you thought, and the person next to you says, well, I think we should set it on fire then, and you're just like, whoa dude, I did not know I joined that kind of online gang. It happens to the best of us. Don't panic, I'm not here to hate on you. And I'm also not here to say that you're entirely wrong for reading queerness into something you love. Whether that's because it's your own lived experience and you feel, wow, this incredible music relates to me so deeply, it really must be written from that same place. Or you're super straight, but you've kind of picked up on a pattern and you want to be supportive. Or any other reason. Like all fandoms, as long as you're acting with the best intentions and being respectful, then you do you. I know a lot of gaylers feel they gained a better understanding of themselves and their queer culture through taking part in the fandom, alongside just enjoying the sense of community, and that they've learnt a lot of queer history too, which I always support. But if you want to know more, then definitely check out my Queer History 101 playlist, Reclaim Your Own History. Unfortunately, there are some who have taken Gaylerism to the extreme and feel that the movement isn't just about straightforward shipping, but instead a force for justice, and that any criticism of it amounted to homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, etc. They also feel that the person who let them down was Taylor Swift herself, by being born the way she was. So yes, one could say things have flown off the rails slightly. For some gaylers, it's gone from thoughtful queer readings and sharing, oh, did you see that clue? Add it to the list. Nancy Drew work, to, I can't believe Taylor has queer baited us this way. Honestly, her behaviour is basically homophobic and I'm burning all of her merch. I'll never listen to her again. Destroy her. Okay, stop. Thank you. Thank you. Just to be clear, Taylor Swift openly embraced the LGBTQ+ community as an ally, not a member. She called her concerts a safe space for LGBTQ+ people and just always seemed happy for people to relate their own experiences and feelings to her songs, but that's not actually queerbaiting. We could get mad if she'd been calling herself a lesbian the whole time, only having public relationships with women and hoarding every LGBTQ+ award left, right and centre, and then she was caught on a hot mic cackling. Ha ha ha, these foolish queers. If only they knew I'm actually a full-blooded heterosexual and I'm just rinsing them for their money. Ha ha. Like a surprisingly attractive Bond villain. Wait, what is queerbaiting in the context of human beings? Great question. Yeah, because I've covered queerbaiting media on my channel before. When big companies want our money, so they promise us the gay is hidden, or it's coming soon, or ugh. Watch the video you can see on your screen right now for more. But how does queerbaiting work when it's an actual, real, non-fictional person we're talking about? Well, while the Oxford English Dictionary only recently recognised the term in March 2021, it's actually been in use in the cultural lexicon for decades, with origins that can be traced back to the early days of the internet. With less explicit LGBTQ+ representation in media and on fan blogs and internet forums, we had to search pretty hard to find what scraps we could relate to, yeah. And even then, I feel like a lot of that was wishful thinking anyway. More on my embarrassing teenage fandom habits later. It's an interesting choice of term for what we mean as queer people looking for bits of relatable queerness, but originally had a much different start. If we look back even further to the 1950s, Joseph McCarthy era lavender scare, and yes dear viewers, we have covered this before, the term is used to describe deeply homophobic legal and political practices. They were baiting the queers out of hiding. Tactics included entrapment, blackmail, and hunting you down based on your affiliations with various arts organisations. Even as little as 10 years ago, gay baiting referred to the practice of a politician sneeringly insinuating that their opponent was gay via dog whistles or just saying almost everything but the word gay, in order to harm them whilst maintaining plausible deniability. So definitely a bullying tactic, and not one I'm fully sure Taylor Swift was actually engaged in. The term moved on, however, to media critique, where it is used to describe a marketing technique for fiction and entertainment in which creators hint at, but do not depict, same-sex romance or other LGBTQ+ representation. This attracts or baits a queer or straight ally audience with a suggestion or possibility of relationships or characters that appeal to them, whilst not alienating the homophobic members of the audience who pay lots of money or censors, by actually portraying queer relationships. BBC's Sherlock, I am looking at you, there was no reason. Also, Elementary, don't act high and mighty when you had Moriarty painting pictures of Joan's face. And in the last few years, despite massive improvements, it's still very much, these are the 3 shows that do huge amounts of representation. These are the 10 with the token character, and these are the 300 other shows. They may feature a gay in a single episode, but don't get excited. It will possibly just be in passing, and they'll probably be dead by the end of the episode. Show dependent. GLAAD's annual Where Are We on TV report highlights that in the 2022-23 period, there are 70 LGBTQ+ series regulars set to appear on scripted primetime broadcast series, a decrease of 22 characters from the previous year. Whilst there still might seem to be a healthy number at 10.6% of characters, it's worth noting that just over 11.2% of millennials identify as LGBTQ+, and around 20% of Gen Z do. Also, are these characters in name only, identified as in some way LGBTQ+ in one throwaway line and then it's never brought up again? Or do they have actual storylines based around their identity and family makeup? To not see yourself reflected on screen is just another form of social isolation. Keeping these characters wink wink, nudge nudge, if you know you know, also perpetuates stigma because it prevents society as a whole from seeing LGBTQ+ people as just normal, everyday people going about our lives in everyday culture where we can actually live happy, healthy, normal, little, boring lives out in the open. Media representation is important for the people you're representing, but also for those who know nothing about the group. The bait and switch tactics of the McCarthy era, the open cultural revulsion at anything even vaguely queer in the decades that followed, and the isolation that we can still experience today from just not seeing ourselves properly represented and positively acknowledged, compounds mental health issues in our community, including depression and anxiety. LGBTQ+ people are more than twice as likely to face mental health struggles than our heterosexual counterparts. So it's not massively surprising that we look for representation wherever we can. In pre-internet times, magazines catering to the queer community would speculate on gossip and wishful thinking about the biggest stars of the day, the categories of who is definitely gay, who is probably gay, who's straight but gay friendly, so hot we wish they were gay, and of course, oh I'm sorry, did anyone think he was straight? That kind of are they, aren't they, dies hard. Even now we have actually out LGBTQ+ celebrities, and it has adapted itself to a world in which online communities can muse about both characters and real people, enhancing their guesses with fan art, fan fiction. And those followings can build to a very, very loyal fan base, who you, the occasionally queer-coded celebrity, might find You want to keep feeding to make them stick with you. You might even find that you've baited them. Whoops. In 2018, Rita Aura, after quietly building a following amongst the gays through a semi-public, semi-relationship with Cara Delevingne, pals, if you're going to wear t-shirts with Cara's wifey and Rita's wifey and wear each other's initials on a necklace, you're really pushing the believability on that. We're just gal pals. My Gala mode just activated. So, in 2018, Rita Aura faced queerbaiting accusations when she released her song Girls with Cardi B, BB Rexa and Charlie XCX, the lyrics of which are interesting. She sings about how she's open-minded before going into a chorus which talks about drinking red wine and kissing girls, which on the scale of I'm bisexual to I'm enjoying how the patriarchy makes me feel cheeky is not great. This was also around the same time that Katy Perry had finally admitted that just maybe singing I kissed a girl and I liked it, I hope my boyfriend doesn't mind it felt so wrong, it felt so right, was problematic. Even Hailey Kiyoko got mad, so you know you've goofed. Rita later apologised for the way the lyrics had come across, but said she was just attempting to address her own true sentiments, revealing she had previously had relationships with men and women. Cara Delevingne, who did not claim to be one of those women, still went on a press tour to defend the song and her friend's right to talk about her own bisexuality however she wished. So, pull someone out of the closet there. Other celebrities accused of queerbaiting include Harry Styles, because he made some acting choices and he personally enjoys gender-fluid fashion, including the occasional ball gown, and apparently what you wear on your body now has something to say about your sexuality. I thought we'd moved past this one. Sorry, level 1 gender stuff, but I realise, didn't we all agree that straight girls can wear flannel shirts and not be called lesbians? And that lesbians can dress however we want, including high femme, and still feel happy and accept ourselves as lesbians? I mean, seems like everyone can wear trousers, even though they're deeply uncomfortable. Why are we gatekeeping dresses? They're the most comfortable garment ever. You don't have to agree with me, but have you ever seen a toga? Equally, Billie Eilish got yelled at for queerbaiting after the video for her single Lost Cause due to the video's sapphic undertones and scene. Examples of calmer tweets include, is Billie Eilish bi, or did I just watch 4 minutes of queerbaiting done by a straight person? She took to Instagram to seemingly address the backlash with a post containing behind-the-scenes photos and the caption stating, I like girls. Obviously this sent fans into a frenzy, as expected surely, as they begged her to elaborate, because it's really not giving much away. She's not actually making out with the girls, she's just appreciating some girls. I too appreciate girls on a variety of levels. What happened next is enough for another video, but suffice to say, she's not straight, and she has some complex feelings that she unfortunately had to work through publicly. The thing is, if you really feel that someone, a human person, not a corporation, who you can yell at as much as you like without hurting their feelings, not that they're probably going to listen or care, is queerbaiting or profiting from queer representation, and you want to know who they really are, you may need to consider why that's so important to you. And I'm not going to act like I'm above this. In my teens and early 20s, I definitely got far too deep into some online fandoms that had the most tentative legs to stand on. See, I had a hospital procedure that went wrong at 17, and I spent like 2 years on bed rest, and it took much longer than that to learn how to be the same age as my peers again. Absolutely still a work in progress. I consistently shock people with how old I am. And I was a sad little only gay in the village, so the internet was my best friend. I understand how you can fall very deeply into an online fandom, and I can understand how you want something to mean exactly what you want it to. Also, you know what? You can be for or against gaylers as a concept, but you do have to hand it to them. They've been near single-handedly holding the baton in the femme-slash department. There have long been many, many fandoms built around male-on-male pairings, and only the odd one or two here and there for the gals. I mean, we've had Kirk Spock from Star Trek, Snape Harry from Harry Potter, Sherlock Holmes and John Watson from Sherlock, Castiel and Dean Winchester from Supernatural, Dean and Sam Winchester from Supernatural, and yes, those are brothers, Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson from One Direction, and yes, those are real people, Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers from The Avengers, and for female pairings we've had, there was that one from Supergirl, Once Upon a Time's Regina Mills and Emma Swan, and the 100's Clark Griffin Lexa. They weren't quite huge to the same degree as the male pairings. A video for another time. So again, I understand the lesbian starvation. I mean, at one point, I was so ravenous for just a little representation, I started shipping Leighton Meester and Blake Lively, who, I will be honest, I don't even think ever interacted on set. Like, Blake just came in, said her lines and left, and my teenage brain went, but did you see how she looked at her? It's secret love. Ugh. Okay. We all know it's not okay to speculate, but we all do it. We like the thrill of feeling how very much inside the in-group we are when our gaydar pings. Point is, it's 2024 now, and whilst I probably would have been a gayler myself if this was 10 years ago. Why are you doing this to Taylor Swift? Why? You don't know how lucky you are. You have actual out celebrities and singers. Go stan Rina Sawayama or Hayley Kiyoko. Get in your feels with Brandi Carlile or Dodie. You have so many options. Interestingly, my wife and I have very different takes on this. She believes nothing. And I think that's because we realised our gayness at very different times. Before, pre-puberty, and one after she'd been able to experience straight teenage girlhood. She thinks it's bizarre that someone would look at these pictures of two women being very physically affectionate, who say that they are straight, and think that they're anything other than straight. But I was an out teenager, and I remember the feeling of my sexuality weighing on my female friendships in the same way that it does for platonic male-female friendships. Even when there is no romantic spark there, even when they are most definitely straight. So it doesn't even matter that you're gay. You're still aware. Don't hug for too long. Don't sit too close. Wait, did that mean something? Because I knew that sometimes some of my female friends were thinking it. That the look in their eyes said they were worried about leading me on. Also, they did occasionally just say the quiet pouts out loud, kind of homophobically. I used to look at other girls and their ease of physical friendship and feel incredibly jealous. I also used to look at some of their friendships and go, if the two of them are even a tiny bit homosexual, then that is definitely something beyond a friendship. And then they would make out at a party while their boyfriends watched. Teenage hormones are wild. Of course, personality and culture play a large part in someone's physical ease with friends. Maybe you come from a place where hugging for too long gets you teased for being queer. Some people aren't huggers, no matter what their sexuality or their background. I am a hugger. COVID was a lot of, oh, don't hug, time for me. I have plenty of friends from all over the sexuality spectrum who I am more casually affectionate with because they are like that too, and then others who are more hands-off. Perhaps Taylor's just a very touchy-feely person with her female friends. Perhaps she feels an ease with them that a lot of us would love to have. Her physical demeanour and ability to drape her long limbs over both furniture and people definitely displays a high level of social safety that we can argue is secretly gay probably wouldn't have. Maybe there are a lot of gaylers who didn't experience teenagehood with a relaxed physical approach to their friends and are now confused to see it. But there is a harm in pointing at every close female friendship and sexualizing it. There absolutely is harm in pointing at her friendship with a gay woman like Cara Delevingne and insisting that that means she must also be queer. Are you saying Taylor can't be friends with gay women and not be gay? Are you saying that gay women can't have straight friends? Why is that? Is there something wrong with us? Are you trying to say we don't fit in with the rest of society? That we're abnormal? We only fit in with our own kind? But this, a particularly male gazy way to view Taylor's friendships, isn't it? I just gave you the example of two boys watching their girlfriends making out, and we've probably all seen that in real life. And men enjoy sexualizing women's friendships and then being disgusted at the idea of their own interactions being sexualized is a kind of common thing. It's needlessly harmful for the gay fans to come in and exacerbate that with hetero women wouldn't act like this. It perpetuates the stereotype that lesbian relationships are a spectacle, entertainment, and that queer women are just sexualized objects, and that women don't just hug without it being sexual. Is hugging appropriation now? And what if she is queer? There is a deep, toxic tone to using a picture of a woman you think is gay, being friendly with another woman, and calling that proof of her queerness. Are you the hunters now? Are you the queer baiters? And you don't want that. You don't want to be that. Ladies, is it gay to have friends? Harsh words incoming here, but there is probably a certain degree of sadness, no doubt jealousy, that gay women and queer women feel, seeing straight women have such ease with each other within their friendships, not to mention those of us who are single looking at this incredible relationship goal. But then the same straight women don't necessarily treat us that way, and that sucks. But it's a societal problem that we need to deal with, both on a larger level and wrestle with internally. It's not something we displace onto Taylor Swift. Don't accuse anyone of queerbaiting. Every time a public figure, be it Kit Connor, Harry Styles, Taylor Swift or Billie Eilish, is accused of queerbaiting, it is harmful to queer people, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how the celebrity actually identifies. It's harmful to bisexual and pansexual people in particular. It's saying very clearly that fluidity is not allowed, privacy is not allowed, taking your time is not allowed. Your identity markers must be worn on your sleeve at all times, and if you haven't said that you're queer, then you're straight. There's no middle ground. We should assume straightness is the norm, and we should yell at anyone who does anything non-straight without first declaring an identity. Although, how they're meant to be sure of that identity without ever first trying something out is never mind. And again, the entitlement to believe that a person has to come out in real life in your set timeline is just wild. Did people learn nothing from Kit Connor? Kit plays a bisexual character in the TV show Heartstopper and was forcibly outed due to online harassment because people thought he was queerbaiting when in fact he was bisexual. He just wasn't ready to come out yet. Just a few months prior to that, actor Rebel Wilson was similarly compelled to reveal that she was in a relationship with a woman, also forcibly outed but this time by media, before she had even had a chance to tell all of her family members. If someone is making art that connects with your little gay soul, that is great. Sometimes that's enough. But for anyone who thought that Taylor was like them, this has been a devastating few weeks. In the wake of the 1989 Taylor's version prologue leak, many die-hard gaylers were expectedly disappointed and even angry that their favourite pop star appears to be just an ally and not queer herself. Some even went as far as to accuse her of leading them on through queerbaiting. I'm not a dramatic person, but I feel like I've been continuously gaslit for almost a decade, another fan posted on Reddit. I've stuck it out through a lot of things. This is basically the nail in my gayer coffin. Others said they were now fully done with Swift and moving on to openly queer artists, which is great if you need 100% relatable authenticity. Honestly, lots of Taylor songs still have very valid queer readings, regardless of her intention. Wonderland still sounds like the dissolution of a homoerotic friendship, but you can read it any way you want. And sometimes it does just mean nothing, and that's okay. That doesn't mean she's queerbaiting, or that she loves you less. An odd number of people have been celebrating the impending death of Gaylerism, but people who can't express their own identity easily or openly often did so through talking about and participating in Gayle conversation. And they're watching a lifeline to queer community slip away. But there are other queer artists and culture out here. And if, in 20 years, Taylor Swift does make a public announcement to say she is actually dating a woman now, well, guess what? It doesn't mean she was queerbaiting in 2018 or 2024. It doesn't mean she was lying now, and it doesn't mean anything about her sexuality at this exact point in time. Because humans are all ever evolving, growing, changing, and discovering new things about themselves. We don't kick women out of the lesbian club because they once held hands with a boy when they were 5, or because they kissed a man, or had sex with a man, or were married to a man for 3 decades before the big, oh, that's what that feeling is. Oh, I'm a lesbian. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on Taylor Swift in the comments below. Hit the like button if you want to see more pop culture style videos from me, and tap the bell if you'd enjoyed this video and want to be notified every time I upload. I've really enjoyed doing more of a current type video. So let me know what you think. And thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Don't forget, you can get an exclusive Surfshark deal by simply entering the promo code Jessica for up to 6 additional months for free and heading to surfshark.deals/Jessica or clicking the link in my description now. Take care of yourselves and check in on the gaylers in your life. They need you. I would definitely be a gayler. Oh boy. Bye, friends.